Let's look at some of the most popular themes and or genres in movies. There's the superhero stuff. There's the popularity of Harry Potter. There's the popularity of the vampire genre. There's the popularity of stuff like teen dystopian sci-fi as a genre for teen fiction. There's sci-fi. And I'm sure there's more things that, once I start talking about it, we're going to recognize. So, the superhero stuff is veneration of the old gods. They're all examples of fallen angels that we're supposed to look to as helpers and saviors. Thor got kicked out of Asgard. Superman got shot here from another planet. They're all people, beings who fell to earth. Jesus didn't fall to earth. He was born out of a womb. That's our savior. Okay? So what do the superhero movies have? Multiverses and portals. Marvel universe, DC universe, they all have portals. And then there's other movies about portals too, like all the Stranger Things stuff, which again is one of those very popular things. As I said, we're probably going to bring a whole bunch of stuff into this. What else do we have? We have vampires. What's a vampire story in its basic essence? You sell your soul for blood sacrifice too, because if you become a vampire you get eternal life, but you have to sell your soul, and it's a blood deal. So you're making blood sacrifice, which is what the demons like. So you want to be one of us, it costs you your soul and blood, and then you have to feed off the blood of the living because you become a demon, you become demonized. Harry Potter, it says in Deuteronomy, no witchcraft, no sorcery, no necromancy, no raising the dead, no talking to the dead, no fortune telling, and whatever else is in there. Those are all things that you go to Harry Potter Wizard School to learn how to do. Look how popular Harry Potter is. They're doing the series. They're going to bring it into a TV series now. You have Hunger Games, which is teen dystopian sci-fi genre. Remember when that showed up in the bookstore? I mean, granted, the only bookstore is pretty much Barnes and Nobles, but when you look up on Amazon in the category of books, whether they're digital downloads or actual physical media mailed to you, we have teen vampire stories. We have teen dystopian sci-fi. Hey, you know what your future is going to be like? It's science fiction. What's science? What's the fiction of our future? It's going to be dystopia. Or maybe you want to fall in love with a vampire that's falling in love with an evil spirit. If only a vampire would make a covenant with me. That's all your Twilight stuff. Maybe Twilight's not so popular as it used to be, but for a time it was the big thing, alright? And I'm telling you, I never checked into it, but I'm telling you, Twilight's coming back again. If it isn't come back already, they're not done. They're going to have to do anything they can, whether they reboot it or whatever. They're going to have you fall in love with the devil, fall in love with vampires. And they did. They did the Nosferatu with Johnny Depp's daughter. And people said, oh, that's a horrible film. And I don't know if it was a hit or not. But they're going to do more. Like, you're going to see more Twilight teen romance stuff, because this is what they're throwing at the kids. They want to program the young people. So the multiverses and the portals, teen dystopian sci-fi is Hunger Games. You're going to have to compete with each other for basic resources because there's enough for everybody. There's a whole planet full of stuff. We're going to round people up and push them to live together and then say there's not enough stuff. And maybe you want to fight about that. And maybe you want to offer yourself up as a blood sacrifice, and then only one of you will be given the basic human resources. And then whoever's the most fittest in terms of social Darwinism and all that stuff, then the demons are going to possess that person and take them over and make them one of the elites. You want to be one of us? You have to kill all your friends and all these other kids, and if you're the one that survives, then you can come up and join us in the upper echelons with the wealthy elite whose fortune shaped the fates of nations and who are all demonically possessed to continue the blood sacrifice of children, as something you watch on TV. Or on your phone, I guess in our case. And the multiverses and portals and all the Marvel and DC movies and Stranger Things you're opening up portals to demonics. We don't have multiverses, we have realms and principalities. So in the movies and TV shows, they always say multiverses, multiverses, multiverses. Because if you if they said realms and principalities, people would look that up and they would say, oh, it comes from the Bible, and realms and principalities are not any place we want to go messing. Our friends aren't necessarily in the realms and principalities. That's where places where darkness can prey upon us and forces of evil and stuff. So they call it multiverses, and they say it's where Spider-Man and his friends are. And what is Spider-Man's main thing? He throws up the devil's hand sign, which is the devil's curse, and then he shoots goo. He's a teenage boy that throws up the devil's curse and he shoots his web everywhere. Do you get it? The Silver Surfer is a herald of the Antichrist, all this stuff, but I know I don't want to get into all the Galactus as God the Father and Luciferian inversion of all that stuff, but the superheroes are surrogates for the old gods. Thor is a form of Satan or Lucifer, and Satan just means like a collection, like forces of darkness together. That's Satan, or Satana, if you will. But just to put a name on it, like the devil or Lucifer or the evil one, that's Thor. Thor is a fallen angel. He's a demon. Could be one of the Watchers, Azazel, whatever you want to believe. But the point is, he has a beef with his father, and he gets kicked out of Asgard, which is Viking heaven. So think about it. There's angels that disobey God, and they get kicked out of heaven, and they're down here on earth. That's the story of Thor. It's the story of the Super Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z. It's another really popular thing, transnationally. Is the saga of the Saiyans. And they are men from outer space who fell to earth, like Superman. They even make fun of Superman in Dragon Ball Z. And Superman comes from another planet, falls to earth, and then he has powers and abilities far beyond that of a mortal man, and he's considered as a savior figure. But Jesus was born out of the womb, and he turned down all the things that the devil offered him when he fasted for 40 days, and he was tempted by Satan. He was tempted by the devil. But the other guys fell to earth. Iron Man is a man of metal and mirror clay. Batman is the Dark Knight, and he's black, and he hides in the night, and he has wings and horns, and he's called the Dark Knight. Okay. And I don't know who else we got. Wonder Woman comes from the island of Lesbos, wherever she comes from. She's a sapphic superhero. The origin story of Wonder Man has had movies made about it. I think they made an HBO movie, or maybe it was in movies. I think they made multiple adaptations of the truth of what Wonder Woman was. Wonder Woman is a man's BDSM sex fantasy that he offered to little boys. Is a woman who's going to tie up with a lasso, and she's wearing high heel boots and stiletto heels and all this stuff, and that was the origin of Wonder Woman, rather. And she is, what's her name? I can't think of Wonder Woman's name, but it's all based on Greek goddess stuff and Athena and all this stuff, and I can't remember the names from Wonder Woman. Diana. There's a goddess that used to be venerated called the goddess Diana. That's Wonder Woman's real identity. Everybody knows her as Wonder Woman, right? That's how the public knows her. But underneath it all, she's really Diana, that comes from the island of Themyscira, where it's the island of all women. So she's just a symbol for one of the old gods. Thor has a chariot with goats. They put that in the last Thor movie. He has a chariot that he rides with 2 goats. And he has the horns. Thor has the horns on his head. And he has a hammer and all this stuff. This is all symbolism of the old gods. So they want us to venerate and worship the old gods again, so they're bringing it back. They're telling us our future, they're telling the young people the future is going to be dystopia. And they've been telling them since the millennials that you guys could be wizards and don't let go of Harry Potter and go how to learn to do all the things that God says that it is forbidden for us to do. Go to Harry Potter school and do those things. They made a theme park out of it. They also made Star Wars Land. What's Star Wars? It's about Anakin Skywalker being special and set apart from everybody else, and he doesn't know who his dad is because his dad is a fallen angel, and so is Anakin Skywalker. His name is Skywalker. He walked in the sky, now he's down here with us, and he's the Dark Father. Do you get it? We have our Father who art in heaven, and we have Darth Vader, who is our Dark Father. Do you get it? And then his children are Luke Skywalker, who continue his bloodline, and they have the powers of the Jedi. Once Anakin Skywalker was good, then he met up with Palpatine, and he becomes evil, and he decides to use the dark side of the Force. Do you want to be of the light? You know, God is the truth, the light, and the way. Or do you want to get your power from the dark side? So Darth Vader chooses the power from the dark side. Stranger Things is another one of these cultural phenomenons that still remains popular. Everybody's waiting for season 5. What's going to happen in season 5? Stranger Things. The stuff from the upside down, which is like an inversion of our world, which is evil. Our world is good in it. The upside down is evil. And the evil is going to break into our world, and they're trying to stop it from happening, but it's going to happen in season 5. And they horribly tortured that little girl who was the test subject of the Montauk Project, which is all stuff they really did in real life, where they did MK Ultra experiments where they tormented children, they really tortured them. And they took something from real life and they put it into the Stranger Things, and they said, look, there's this girl, her name is, they call her Elle because they don't really know what her name is anymore. They call her 11, but Elle, like the Elohim, this is all Bible stuff. So they call her Elle, or they call her 11, the significance of the number 11. Remember what happened on the day of 9/11, all this stuff. So they throw all that symbolism in there. So what is Elle? She has powers and abilities far beyond that of a mortal man. She's possessed. She has powers of influence from the demonic realm because they threw that kid in there and she came out of it with powers and abilities. And it's all witchcraft and sorcery stuff, and that's Stranger Things. And Stranger Things is so popular, they made Stranger Things sneakers for teenagers, and that awful music, was it Lorna McKenna or whatever, whoever it was, they had some awful music. There's this witch that made music in Stranger Things season 4, so people were listening to her shit music. Remember that? They just want you to listen to witchcraft and sorcery music. I forget the woman's name, forgive me, because it's bad, it's crappy music. But I'm like, why are they listening to her? And I was like, and they said, oh, it's because Stranger Things. Kids heard the songs in Stranger Things, and now they want to hear that witch's music. So all these things are influencing our lives. Like, even you can say they ruined Star Wars with Rey and everything, but what do we find out about Rey? Who is Rey? We thought her dad was going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi or whoever it was, and they're like, no, her dad, she's actually related to Emperor Palpatine. She's a blue blood. She's from the dark side of the Force. That's her bloodline. And then she fights her great-grandpa or whatever, and then and in the movie, Palpatine says, if you defeat me, I still win and I will consume you. So she says, no, I'm going to do it. And she fights him and she defeats him and she wins. But he said that that's how he would win. Like, he said that's how he would take, you know, like that would be a win for him. Like, he would just possess her then. And then the movie ends and she says, I'm a Skywalker. It's all, you know what I mean? All the symbolism. He's our Darth Vader's our dark father. That's not God the Father or Jesus, his only begotten Son, our King and our Lord. He's the Dark Father in German. You get it? And Stranger Things is about opening portals to the demonic. All the MCU stuff is about going, like Spider-Man into the multiverse. They made 2 of them. They're gonna make a 3rd one. There's also the Spider-Man that had Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland, and it was 3 Spider-Man, and everybody loved it. They liked that movie, right? I don't know how much money it made, but that was one of the ones they gave good reviews to. Then they did, oh, you remember the original Batman from the movies, Michael Keaton? Well, we're bringing him back, and he's going to be with the Flash. I forget the god that Flash represents, but you know, the Flash that goes really fast. He was he's a messenger of the gods. Like, he was delivering messages between the gods. That's him. Was it Mercury or something? Or I forget. It's one of the old gods. I mean, it's literally, that's who Flash is representing. It's one of the old Greek gods. I just can't remember his name. Forgive me. So then you have the Flash. And look what happened to that poor kid. He wanted to play the Flash in the movies, and he's messed up. He has a cult and everything. That's Ezra Miller. Look what happened to that poor guy. He's a kid, right? He got the range, and they were hunting him down and everything, and he was choking out women and stuff like that. That's horrible. That's heartbreaking. So and maybe the movie wasn't a big hit, but you know, that's what they're giving us. Like, people didn't like it, but they thought everybody was going to like it, right? And then, you know, they give you the Dark Knight and Flash, the messenger of the gods. And, you know, they created child labor laws so that kids would no longer have to work in the mines. But these evil jerks figured out a way to get the kids back in the mines, virtually. And they love it. Look at the Minecraft movie phenomenon. These kids are so pent up. They're like, we just want to vent. We just want to like be able to have youthful exuberance. So they give it to them through the Minecraft movie. And for whatever reason, a spell was cast over the kids. And they say chicken jockey, and the kids like, ah, and they trash the theater and everything. And they got our kids back in the mines. That's what's happening in the pop culture. Like, look at all the stuff that's the most popular things. You know, like the gaming too. What's Fortnite? Fortnite, I had it explained to me by a Zoomer. I said, well, what is Fortnite? I said, what are you doing there? And he said, well, it's basically like, he said, you go in there and you shoot at your friend, you build forts, and you spend so much time in there, it's like you've been online for like 2 weeks. That's because a fortnight is 2 weeks. So you go and you build forts because it's spelled wrong. It's a fortnight, but it's spelled wrong. So you go in there and you shoot up your friends, and you can play all the different characters from movie and video games, and like they'll buy franchise rights to different characters, and they'll be in the game for a limited time. So when he'd explained it to me, I said, it's like Hunger Games, right? And he said, yeah, basically. So it's just basically Hunger Games, but it's like fun, and it's got cool colors, and it's not horror, violence, and gore and stuff like that. It's like a lightweight where you go inside a place and you hunt your friends. So that's Fortnite. That's the other most popular thing. Disney is a monopoly that must be dismantled. It's gotten too big. Now Disney bought Fortnite. They bought Hulu because Disney streaming wasn't working, so they're merging with everything. And soon they're not going to call it entertainment. They're going to call it Disney. I'm telling you, we have to start. Maybe I got to do it. It's probably already exists and I'm just ignorant to it. The petition to dismantle Disney has to be started because it has to be broken up. It is a monopoly. It's a monopoly on entertainment. Disney owns too many things that get our attention. They even own The Simpsons. Do people care about that anymore? I don't. But they own the Muppets. They own all this stuff. And you know, the Muppets, maybe they're not popular, nobody cares, so I don't really need to bring them into this. But you know that it's a hand, right? It's a weird thing. Bunch of kids staring at some guy's hand. Hi, I'm Emo. All that stuff, this nonsense. That's weird. It's weird. Puppets are weird. The guy's possessed. My hand's possessed. Oh no, what am I doing? You see what I mean? How weird is it just to watch me do that? That's weird, right? It even says in the Bible, one of the things, I think it might be in Deuteronomy with the list of no witchcraft, no sorcery, no fortune telling. It might say also no ventriloquism, because in certain versions of the Bible it does say that, it's in the Bible that it says don't do ventriloquism. Now does that mean throwing your voice, or does that mean like letting demons speak through you? I don't know. But, you know, ventriloquism is puppets, and, you know, what is Elmo? You know, it's weird. Kermit the Frog, nobody cares anymore. They're dead. They're as dead as the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies. Nobody cares about Bugs Bunny anymore. But, you know, even in the Space Jam Part 2, it was about multiverses. This IP slop fest. Spielberg came out of retirement to direct Ready Player One, which granted it was easy to do because there was so much stuff that was just like animation, so you didn't have to be there. You just had to like change this, change that. But they said to Spielberg, why did he want to direct Ready Player One? And he said, because I think the future, he said, I think our future will be a lot like the world of Ready Player One. And the world of Ready Player One is where everybody's living in shipping containers stacked on top of one another, and they just want to be online all the time, and the kids don't go to school with each other. They go to Microsoft One Education Worldwide School online. And everybody's just in a gaming world, and they're neglecting their physical selves to be in this virtual world all the time, which is kind of like the multiverse stuff they're bringing to us. There's no multiverses. There's a universe. We live in a universe. And what there are, as I think I said already, are realms and principalities, all right? So they tell us multiverses in the movies to disguise the fact that what it is realms and principalities. Because if you look into realms and principalities, you're going to get the Bible. And you're going to find out that what's hanging out in realms and principalities is bad dudes. And the guys who have authority in principalities are, again, probably mostly, if not wholly, exclusively, bad dudes. We have a divine council, not a galactic federation. That's some Star Trek Rand Corporation nonsense. And Star Trek is space communism. They killed that franchise. That used to be popular too. But it used to be very popular. Star Trek used to be one of the most popular things. If only we could all get along and it could be like Star Trek. People lived by this. People changed their lives for the veneration and worship and idolatry of Star Wars. That's faded because the new shows suck, right? Hey, I thought the DS9, Deep Space Nine, Star Trek's Next Generation, all this stuff is pretty good. I like that stuff. I hated it for years, but when I finally saw it, I was like, hey, this is pretty good. It's very deceptive. Paid for, if I'm not mistaken, paid for by the Rand Corporation. Not a good thing. It's basically space communism. People say it as a punchline. Oh, Star Trek, space communism. Like if communism could work, it would be like Star Trek. Yeah. And what do they have? They have the Galactic Federation. Now people are talking about it like it's a real thing. Like, you know, in all this multiverse stuff. So all the things that are given to us by popular culture, and I will say all the things that are directly aimed at the youth, that are aimed at young people, no matter if you're, you know, Generation Z or Alpha or Beta or beyond, all the most popular things that have been around are all the stuff I'm talking about, and it's pretty much destructive, and it's all about the influence of the demonic into our lives and opening ourselves up to realms and principalities and calling it multiverses. You have Star Wars universe, you have the Marvel universe, you have the DC universe, and you have the DC multiverse and the Marvel multiverse and Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, which I know is part of Marvel. And they have these other movies that are about portals too. One of the most popular games that was really inventive and innovative that people liked for a long time was called Portal. And it was just about opening portals and going to different places. And that's what happens when we sleep. When we sleep, we're in a dream realm. It's a realm. It's not a multiverse. But what's happening is some young people are believing that when they sleep or they do drugs that they're taking DMT trips, and they're talking to the purple DMT lady. They're you know, going into these places where people will have drug trips, and they come out of the drug trips and they describe similar environments. They're going to the same places. I saw machine elves. I saw the meditating aliens. I saw the cosmic jesters. I saw these, you know, like they got high and they saw clowns with checkerboard floors, and people are seeing these. People are having shared drug experiences. You thought it was just your trip? No. You're getting high, you're blurring the boundaries between corporeal and incorporeal, and you're going into these realms and principalities, and they're building them and shaping them into places that people are going. And Joe Rogan is, not to pick on him, but Joe Rogan kind of unwittingly, I think, is telling people like, oh, you haven't lived until you've gone into these realms. He's telling people to take drugs. And now look, what used to be highly illegal, like class 1 drugs or whatever, just saying micro doses of ketamine, micro doses of psychedelic mushroom extracts or whatever. And these are things that you can get as therapy for your mental health. People talk about the Ambien dreams. People talk about Lunesta dreams. People talk about melatonin dreams. We're being influenced. They're blurring the boundaries between corporeal and incorporeal. We're being encouraged to embrace this multiverse stuff. And they're making it look like a thing that would be pleasing. You know what's on the other side in the other realms? Even though they don't call it that, they call it multiverses. That's just another version of you. It's just another Spider-Man. Yeah, the other version of you is a demonically possessed version of you, where you're trapped in some kind of dream realm or video game land, whatever they build for you in the realm. And then they're out there having a party with your body, destroying yourself, ruining your life, humiliating you, being debauched. Look at how people get drunk and high and it ruins marriages, right? Or they do humiliating stuff, or they make embarrassing videos and everybody sees that. Yeah, you're being puppeted. Video games and the popularity of video games, you thought you're playing a video game avatar? Well, the grander scheme of things is that you watching are the avatar for demons. You are the avatar for dark forces. They want to inhabit your body. they're showing you in the movies that you can get possessed. They're showing you in all the Blumhouse and A24, Ari Aster films and all this shit. They're showing you that demonic possession is a thing, it's real, but also, through stuff like Twilight and the romanticization of vampires and vampirism, they're making it seem like an attractive thing. Maybe you want to have a vampire for a lover. It's a demon. Maybe if you get possessed, you'll be like the X-Men and you'll have powers and abilities far beyond that of the mortal man, because that's what it is. Like, you become a vampire in the Twilight series, and each vampire is given a special ability. And the X-Men, when they're coming into adulthood and they're becoming teenagers, that's the origin story of a lot of the X-Men characters, is these things come on with puberty. So as they're coming to age of accountability or whatever, they're getting possessed by demons, and now they can do like a trick. They do one thing. One guy's Iceman. Wolverine has a healing factor, and then he was part of a government experiment project, and they metallicized his bones, And Professor X has psychic powers, and so does Jean Grey. Magneto can control metals, which is what the dwarves did. Demons are be able to control stone and metal, right? That's like one of the powers of demons. So Magneto is the evil demon, and he can control metal, and it makes them very powerful. They call it mutants, but it just means demonically possessed people. Rogue, if she touches somebody, she can suck stuff out of them. So Rogue, is that Rogue? Yeah. So Rogue is a form of vampire. Kitty Pryde can walk through walls and stuff. That's like ghosts and demons do that kind of thing. That's the X-Men. One guy's a beast. He's the blue beast, whatever that means. But it's a beast. He looks like a demon. He has like him and Wolverine, their hair curls up into horns. I mean, like when you saw the first X-Men movie, the first one they ever made, the first Bryan Singer X-Men movie, and they showed you Wolverine's hair. They're like, what a dumb haircut. Why would somebody make their hair look like that? But people who loved the comic books said, yeah, but it looks like Wolverine. And you're like, it looks like he combed his hair into horns and used a lot of gel. And he has claws. So, this is demonics. And that's what all our movies are about. Hunger Games, blurring boundaries between corporeal and incorporeal, being wizards and witches and all the stuff that God said that we're not allowed to do, and killing each other so that the fittest will survive, and then the demons can latch onto those people because they're the fittest, and everything else is blood sacrifice. And we know that demons get something out of blood. It's one of the oldest rituals in the world, is killing people and offering the blood up. The worshippers of Baal, who would place their children on the fire and they'd offer up their children to Baal. The Incas and the Aztecs predicated on blood sacrifice by killing people, creating big civilizations, and then sacrificing people up and giving their blood to the feathered serpent and all these demons and stuff like that. Demons want blood. And that's what a vampire is. They're not cool. The idea of being seduced by a Dracula or a vampire or whatever, it's no good. Raising the dead, that's the Frankenstein story. You see how this is all throughout, being demonically possessed, being a wolf man, being covered in hair and all this stuff. And again, it's all drinking off of blood and eating people and shit like that. This is what the demons do. We're worshiping and venerating them through cinema and, through works of fiction and stuff like that. And that's all of it. All these things that are the most popular, the giant stuff, the Titan and everything, being preyed upon by the resurgence and thinking about giants. You know what giants were? There were angels who took on a curse so that they could have sex with human women, knowing that they would get kicked out of heaven. They had children down here. Their children were the giants. The children of human women and fallen angels are the Nephilim. And Titan, the show that was very popular, anime, that I think they wrapped it up, but Titan, that's all about the Nephilim. That's all about giants eating people, and the giants are the children of the fallen angels. and the women that had sex that laid down with them, and then those women were turned into sirens. God punished those women by turning them into mermaids. You can go into Disney Little Mermaid, which is like a lesser thing, but they just remade the Little Mermaid movie like a year or two ago, right? So, and why did God curse the women that had sex with the angels? Because they became the first witches. The fallen angels gave the women they had sex with forbidden knowledge, and they used that forbidden knowledge, and the forbidden knowledge they used was witchcraft. So he punished the first witches by turning them into the sirens. And what do we get in terms of pop stars? It's mostly women. Oh, look at the sexy siren, the sultry siren. They take a teenage girl, innocent and sweet, and then they have her put on the angel wings, and then they have her do a fallen angel story and a slut walk. And first she's like, I'm innocent and pure, I'm nice, and I'm God and the Bible and stuff. And then they come out and I'm Taylor Swift. I'm gonna do Willow. I started out as a vaguely Christian pop star, and then she's got to do the same thing the rest of them do. If they don't come out of the gate swinging as possessed by demons and a bad girl, they start out as something sweet, and then they're turned into something slut and evil. First it's Hannah Montana, and then Hannah Montana becomes the girl who's sticking out the all-mocking tongue all the time and doing all this dirty stuff and telling kids to, young hearts be free and all that stuff. That's all of them. Katy Perry, same thing. She used to be a Christian singer. She couldn't get anywhere with that, and then she openly tells the public that she became famous when she sold her soul to the devil. How did she do that? She had sex with a record producer, and she gave away part of her soul for it. That's the devil. It's as easy as it is to make a devil's deal. You oral or anal, that's as easy as it is. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. That's as easy as it is to make a deal, to make an evil covenant. So it taints everything. Look at the popular, you have openly satanic rappers. You have Travis Scott telling you that he gets beats, that he's sacrificing people at his concert, and people watch the videos and they're like, yeah, but that's not real. And like, yeah, it is. You have openly satanic rappers. Lil Nas X is lap dancing on the devil's lap and all this shit. And Kevin Gates is saying that he has thousands of angels under his command. No, you're possessed. You're full of demons and you're possessed. I mean, he openly said this, that he has thousands of angels under his command. Who the hell talks like that? Nobody that's a Christian that that says that Jesus is Lord says that they have angels under their command. They don't, because that's not part of the faith. That's not part of a worshiper of the one true God. So the superheroes are the old gods. Everything old is new again. So, okay, maybe people have superhero fatigue. Well, there's plenty of other stuff. There's cheap and easy horror movies, and a lot of people still do like this stuff. They want it to be good. They don't like getting the communism, Marxism, socialism messages in the movies, and everybody's tired of that. That's okay. They'll find new evil things to direct us to. And the video games keeping us online all the time. In some ways, I guess you could say it's an inferior version, but video games are like the idea. Like, look at how much time people spend video games. You're in other realms. You're in a virtual world, in this virtual reality. You're in Fortnite. You're in Minecraft. You're in EverQuest. People still do that. You're in, I don't know, Skyrim, or they create these vast worlds online. They create ones for little kids, they create ones for adults. I remember with Toontown, they closed down Toontown or whatever. Kids used to go there and play inside these worlds. So they create these worlds, and you live your life in there. Yeah, it's a monitor on the screen, but it's hard for people to pull themselves away from it. Try and take video games away from a kid. There's compilations of them spazzing out. Try to take a tablet away from a kid. They're not even playing a game. They're just watching something. And then they'll freak out. The toddlers are freaking out when you take the tablet away from them. Their kids are hypnotized. So they're trying to set us up to like put us in these realms and principalities and trap us there, and then they want to use our bodies, I believe. I don't think I'm wrong about this. And the setup is video games. They made video games very attractive. Maybe you have a shit job and you have 4 walls and a roof over your head if you're lucky in your shit apartment. But when you go online, you can play games with your friends, and you can't meet each other physically. or you don't want to anymore because they traumatized everybody when they told everybody to stay inside and stay home and just stay online. So people got used to that. This traumatized the young people. A lot of young people are having nostalgia, making nostalgia content on social media platforms for 2020, when everybody was told to stay home and, you know, we'll figure out universal basic income. You just have to agree to make your devil's deal, you know, with all that. That which I can't even speak about because I got videos blocked for talking about it, and punished and wrist slapped and strikes on my channel and all this stuff. So, yeah, they want us to think about the gamification of life. Like, look what happens. These kids play hours and hours of games, and they get turned into some kind of Manchurian candidate, and then they go out and they're in the clock tower with the rifle, and they're going pew pew pew, or they're going in the church or the synagogue or wherever they're going, and or Walmart or wherever, and they're you know, they're reflecting what they spent hours of their lives doing. Something happens and their flip is switched, and they go berserk, and they ruin their lives and take other people's lives, and sometimes take their own. And you know, and they say that gaming is harmless. You're living your life, and maybe not you watching, but you know that a lot of people are spending a huge chunk of their life in not the real world. I mean, that's all there was for most of history, was the real world. Now people they can go into these other realms online. And it used to be you could play the game at home by yourself. Now they want you to be plugged into the internet to play the game. A lot of games you can't just play them. You know, that's the taking away of physical media. Like, you had the cartridge. That's what people are saying now. Like, I have this game, I can play it. I don't need to be online to play the game. It's fun to be able to play it, but you know, they say, screw Nintendo. We don't need to be online to play. I have all these old games, all the great Wii games or whatever it is, whatever console. Or you know, like you have a game simulator. You don't have to be online. You can just use your tower and you can play all the old classic games or whatever if you want to do that. I'm gonna play the old RPG games or whatever. They want you to be online to do this stuff because you're hooked into something. You're influenced. Like they want you to be influenced. They want us all to be connected. This is all these ideas of singularity stuff. They want us to be all connected. God has authority over everything. He's omniscient and omnipresent. He's in all places and all things. All right. So what we have is an inferior version by the forces of darkness of that, where we want to be everywhere. We want to have cameras on everything from satelloons and in the sky. We want to have cameras everywhere in your lives, in your homes. They're making for themselves the illusion of omniscience and omnipresence. That's Palantir and all this, you know, cameras everywhere and drones, and it's all this security stuff. It's so that they can watch us. The Eye of Sauron. It's like the modern day Eye of Sauron, to bring Lord of the Rings into it. So the idea that evil has control and authority over everything. They want to know everything about you, what you're doing at all times. It's what 1984 is about. George Orwell's 1984. So they want to do that, but it's the easiest thing for God to just pull the plug, and then that's over. You know what I mean? Like, all God has to do is turn the lights out, and the internet goes off, and all the cameras and all the other thing. You know what I mean? Like, God is omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent, filling all places and all things. This is God. That's not, the forces of darkness are not everywhere present and filling all things. They're creating the illusory inversion of all that. That's what they're doing. And you know, so it's a copy, it's a counterfeit. It's like, it's not, you know, like they can't make anything. They can only imitate things and copy things. And that's what all of our technology and stuff is to do. And our movies and TV are trying to lure us into the world that they want to lock us into, and then they want to get us high, keep us high all the time in altered states by every means necessary. Tell people they have to take drugs, and you have to do this and you have to do that, so that way we can always be influenced. Like a lot of the science fiction stuff, like Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, has a future everybody's high all the time. And you've seen other videos on this, maybe, like that's the future. They want to have people doped up all the time. Yeah, to blur the boundaries between corporeal and incorporeal so they can have influence over us. And people have signed up for it. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody, maybe you're one of these people, where people tell the story where they were high for years. They stayed high for like decades of their life. Like I remember somebody saying, I was like, they said, yeah, I'm just coming out of being high for the last 20 years. Like they were never not high. Like they always had access to weed for like 20 years. That could be a Californian, right? Because of all this, whether it was legal or not, people were getting high. So they want to do that. And some people have drug trips from the psychedelic drugs by the guys, social engineers like Timothy Leary and all these guys that put out into the world the 1960s counterculture revolution. What was the culture in America? It was families. It was the idea of the American dream, and that you could establish a life for yourself and have a home and have a family and perpetuate that. So the 1960s counterculture revolution was about destroying the culture, which was what I just told you. So destroy the family. Aleister Crowley had a poem about this. Enemy number one, the family. So Timothy Leary openly said that everything he did for Lucifer. He looked right into the camera in multiple interviews and he said everything that he does for Lucifer. But in his own words. I'm not going to say that I do it for that, but you see what I mean? Like, he said that. He said he told you, he's telling the public, he does it for the devil. What? You're the drug guy. You're the 1960s counterculture revolution drug guy. A lot of people have had their lives destroyed by drugs. It's a mind-expanding experience. But some people have those experiences and they're like, but I don't want to do it again. They have a bad trip. They get influenced, they get corrupted, and then they don't need to go back. They've already had the influence and the corruption. They've already had themselves tainted. They've already had themselves messed with. You don't need to come back. Some people keep doing it until, they get locked up. They destroy their lives. They never come back. There's a lot of people that take those drugs, those psychedelic drugs, and they never come back. Now it's possible because they keep refining cannabis that people get messed up on that and they don't come back from it. There's some horrible stories about people doing too much weed. And doctors that deal with people with addictions, that will tell you that yes, that weed is an addiction and it's very powerful and it's hard to come off of, and you do go through withdrawals. I smoke pot all the time, and I went through like 3 months of torment of withdrawals because it stays in your system. It stays in your brain for a long time, like a month or something. But if you're doing it for years, you've changed and altered your system. You've probably rewired yourself in some way from years of pot smoking and drug use and eating edibles and all this stuff. Now it's being encouraged to the point where you can go to a gas station, you can get gas station CBD, and they have legal weed. They have the Delta 8s and THCA and all the combinations thereof, and you can just hit these little vape things and you'll get blasted off. You hit it 5 times in a row and you're high. I've done it. I know that it works. And you have all the prescription stuff. People go to a doctor and they get the pharmakeia, and then they're on, they warn you about the side effects, and people take the drugs anyway. Why would anybody spend any money on any of these drugs, if not for own ego, vanity, pride, and ignorance, to say, well, I won't get any of those side effects when I take it. They're telling you that this is what it's going to do, and then you take other drugs to help you. You see what I mean? Like they want us to be high all the time on everything. You take one drug to heal you from one problem, it creates 5 other problems, and you get other drugs to treat each of those things, and surgeries and operations, and it's making people a mess. And it's also making us weak and opening us up to manipulation. And that's what all the multiverse stuff is about, and all the other things I talked about. All the things that they give us to be the most popular things are to corrupt us. I mean, Taylor Swift isn't just singing songs anymore. She's enculturating witchcraft. Like the famous tweet that people use in their videos that I've used a bunch of times. You're not Swifties anymore, you're witches. What the hell's that? And yes, it's indoctrination. We watch these films and we get indoctrinated into the evils. We make it acceptable. We accept these things. And who's the Minecraft movie guy is Jack Black. He's in the band Tenacious D, and all their songs are about how they, the devil, and they're like, they say hail to the Satan and all this stuff like that. They say that, like that's part of a Tenacious D concert. They throw up the hand signs like, yeah, it's not so bad, it's just the devil. And then Jack Black recently was in a movie, called Dear Santa, where they scratched out the N, and it was like Dear Satan, because a kid sends a letter to Santa Claus and it goes to the devil. Santa Claus is the devil. If you switch the Santa is an anagram for Satan. People were celebrating Jesus' birth on whatever day, celebrating it on the Roman Saturnalia. That's the 25th of December. So to eclipse Jesus, they say, well, Santa Claus gives you all the earthly things. So Santa is an anagram for Satan. You just switch, the letters around. You've got Satan. So Jack Black plays the devil, trying to get the kids. The whole movie's about trying to get the kid's soul. So that's your movies. What am I missing? I got it all. I haven't talked about Star Trek, and that's dead, right? It's a dead franchise. And Star Wars, it's hanging on a little bit. The damage is done. And what's Indiana Jones? People liked Indiana Jones. It was like, not as popular as the rest of the stuff I mentioned. Because there's like 4 or 5 Indiana Jones movies. He's a grave robber. Indiana Jones is a grave robber. Did you know that? Now you know. He's an agent. He's a grave robber. He did the same things that the Germans in World War II were doing. He even went up against them. The Germans had the Ark of the Covenant, so he was trying to steal it back to them to give it to the Americans. That's Indiana Jones. They're all bad guys. Sorry. And, don't watch The Chosen, because it's a perversion of Jesus. It's a perversion of our God, of our Lord. That's a bullshit show. Don't watch it. BAALSHIT show. So there you go. There's my 2 cents on all that stuff. I mean, can you deny it? You want to say that maybe it's too much for you, but that don't mean it's not true. So anyway, we always have access to the most advanced technology that's ever going to be available. We have recourse to the aid of God. We have a direct line to the creator and maker of all things. This is what prayer is for. This is what prayer is. We pray to God for help for ourselves and for others and for all the world. We pray for guidance. We pray for wisdom. Pray for wisdom. Ask God for wisdom. Because there's a lot of stuff that falls under that. God was pleased with Solomon when he asked for wisdom, but he was not pleased with Solomon when he gave him his wisdom, what he did with it. You know what I mean? Solomon did a lot of bad mistakes. He had like hundreds of wives and it wasn't enough for him. He had to bow down before false idols. I'll tell you, women must have been hot in the old days that God gave him wisdom and talked to him, and then he still messed it up. How are you doing? Pray to God. Believe it.